Rome. Even the name conjures vivid images. Mighty emperors commanding vast legions. Fearless gladiators battling for glory. And awe-inspiring ruins that whisper tales of a bygone era. But Rome is so much more than its iconic landmarks. It's a saga of unparalleled ambition, unstoppable power, and heartbreaking tragedy. How did this humble city on the Tiber River transform into the greatest empire the world has ever known? And what led to its eventual collapse? Buckle up, because we're about to unravel the gripping tale of the rise and fall of one of history's most extraordinary civilizations. Rome. Every great city has its origin story. And Rome's is full of myth and drama. Just think of it. Two twin brothers, Romulus and Remus, were abandoned as children by the river Tiber, found by a she-wolf and grown up in the wild. They became strong and decided to build a city. But as all the great stories of brothers do, Romulus killed Remus and then called the city after himself. Okay, probably just myth. Still, there is something powerful in the idea that Rome was founded by two brothers with nothing but ambition and conflict. What is Rome if not a city built from the clash of ideas and ambition? This Rome was never built as this great empire, but small, a humble kingdom, if you will. They came out as a rude country settlement in 753 BCE, far from the glory of what one would imagine. Despite all their imperfections and flaws, the first kings instituted the structures of Rome. They borrowed some of those principles from the Etruscan neighbors: religion, art, even structures that were symbolic of their engineering genius. Rome had one thing, though, the Etruscan neighbors didn't: unbridled ambition. All this tiny kingdom would need was just a few generations for an urge towards something greater. By the time the sands of time drifted down to 509 BCE, the Romans were tired of kings. After all, the last of them, Tarquin the Proud, had abused them, so they decided to banish him and not to look back. Thus began the Republic. The people were to hold the power. Not quite. Power held by a few rich families able to finance a run for office. Yet a start nonetheless. For one thing, the people had a voice, at least those with the right relationships. Of course, things weren't perfect. The Republic had one huge problem: two classes of citizens. The patricians were the elite, and the plebeians were, well, everyone else. And guess what? The plebeians didn't have much to say in the Republic. But they weren't ones to back down. After years of protesting, striking, and even marching out of the city, the plebeians had won some pretty big victories. One of them, the 12 Tables. a set of laws written down to be seen by all. It was the beginning of the rule of law, and it would shape the future of Rome. But this wasn't Roman ambitions confined to the city walls. Over succeeding centuries, the Romans would expand across Italy and beyond. What separated them was not just the military might, although they had enough of it. Rather, it was because they could make allies, assimilate the culture which they conquered, and give citizenship rights, even to those whom they got defeated by. Rome was not just building an empire. It was creating a network of cities and peoples who could come into common cause. And then came Carthage. This powerful city-state in North Africa was more than just Rome's rival. It was the greatest challenge to Rome. A chain of merciless battles between the two superpowers known as the Punic Wars was ignited. The Carthaginian general Hannibal was a genius generally believed to be among the greatest military minds. He crossed the Alps with his army and elephants. Yes, elephants. For many years, Hannibal struck terror into the heart of Rome. But the Romans never yielded. Finally, after 2 decades of relentless war, they defeated Carthage. But even while they celebrated their victory, one question stood: what would Rome do with this new power? Next came Julius Caesar, the great general, superb politician, and quite frankly, a man whose ambitions knew no limits other than those his imagination set. In 49 BCE, he did what was to seal his fate, crossing the Rubicon with his legions, marching inexorably toward Rome. Took no ordinary decision, but rather one of bold, hazardous movement, a point beyond which there was no turning back. Caesar himself said famously, "The die is cast," which had to mean the end of the Roman Republic as it was known. Caesar became dictator for life in 44 BCE, but was murdered within several months by those afraid of his rising power. The murder? It was only the prologue to another episode in the history of Rome. Without Caesar, Rome had been on the verge of chaos. But his heir brought it all together. Not just order, but an explanation of what the Roman government was. Up rose the first emperor, Augustus, and with him rose the Roman Empire. As he ruled, Rome reached something of a golden era. It is called the Pax Romana, the Roman peace. For over 200 years, this empire succeeded. Throughout, roads, paving and interconnecting far-flung provinces, the growth of cities in size, and for many, life improved. Life in the empire, as may be expected, was a patchwork of contrasts. To the well-off, life was a thing of opulence, with its magnificent villas, sumptuous feasts, and private baths. But to the poor, however, The story is entirely different. This class, huddled together in small apartments, living literally day by day, and very often toiling in busy markets or serving the rich. There was one thing, however, that united them in the love for it: the gladiator games. One of the places where men fight up to death is called the Colosseum. It was the most preferred form of entertainment throughout the empire. But nothing lasts forever. By the 3rd century CE, cracks started to appear. That by now sleekly honed empire was coming undone. Corruption ran rampant, and the economy suffered under such pressure. The enemies are pressing against the borders of Rome. The impossibility of the size of the empire to be run brought forth the time when none seemed able to keep control. And then, in 410 CE, the unthinkable happened. The Visigoths sacked Rome, the city that had been the center of the known world, lay in ruin. After years of unparalleled dominance, the Western Roman Empire was found to be stumbling. In 476 CE, the last emperor was toppled. In a very real way, it seemed as if the fall of Rome marked the end of everything. But in many ways, it was just the beginning of an age. Even as the Western Roman Empire fell, the Eastern Roman Empire, the Byzantine Empire, remained for another millennium. It preserved much of what was Roman in culture, in laws, in ways. Its capital, Constantinople, became the new source of authority and greatness. And in that sense, the spirit of Rome continued, though taking on different shapes. Today, as we walk amidst the ruins of Rome, we seem to take a stroll into history itself, from Roman law to its art. The stamp of Rome seems to be everywhere. It wasn't a city. It was an idea. In that idea, we can still hear the echoes of ambitions of glory, and even failures. The next time one thinks of Rome, remember, this is no chapter of the past, but a story that made our future.